That's fine,
Yeah.
that's fine.
That reminds-
I think
but
most of the changes are very small, except at the very end, so
Yeah.
we could just put in the new version we agree with explanation about the main change is around the enforcement.
Well, no, just a thought. And
That'd be my thought.
I'll absolutely follow your lead. You know this community better than I do. Although I'm learning, I like this community a lot. If we put, I know there was a lot of debate about this ordinance last year, or this general bylaw that was in
Last year,
year.
whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's sort of a hot topic. The more that's there for an opportunity for debate, which might be a healthy thing that the board wants to have, the more opportunity there might be to, I guess, I hate saying this, but I'll say it out loud, if it's right or not, less is more, right? In the sense that this was already passed once, introducing it in its entirety, which I actually think is the right thing to do, because we are changing basically something in all of it.
Everywhere through it, there's changes
But
throughout.
I guess, I just wanna be thoughtful, as we're talking through it, where we put it, if it is an attachment, or if it's a.
I think as an
something different.
attachment makes more sense.
It's better than trying to put it in the body, because
I
then
agree
it pushes
totally.
everything down. And
I agree.
except you go look at it, they don't wanna look at it, they don't look at it. If you put it there, they
I
have to
agree.
look at it.
And when FinCom gets up to make the recommendation, they will say the primary impact of this article is to clarify the enforcement procedure. And they don't have to worry about all the little minutia. Because there's really nothing else of real consequence that changes in the law. And we want to emphasize it's primarily about that one thing. It'll keep us from having a huge discussion. 38th.
So, I read it through, I didn't crawl through it. I assume that this is somewhat boilerplate from the state, some of this
Yes,
wording of that.
and it's copy and paste.
But while we're on this, so, we've had this thing in the past, and Debbie will be able to help us here. The standards of whether we have things like GL or MGL. Certainly in bylaws, the text is MGL because it's more appropriate, I mean, it's legal. And this is not bad, there's 7 GLs and 1 MGL. My suggestion is that we set our standard as MGL
Okay.
and change them all to MGL, but I'll go with GL if you want to do it throughout it, but keep it standard. But you still have to have places that you put MGL when you do a bylaw that says what it is.
So in this particular
I changed
article, it's just that one
Yeah.
GL, but you're saying throughout the document, there's
It's
7
a
or 8.
change, you know how to do,
Yep.
change, fine change, there's 7 of them in there.
So where it's actually written out, like chapter 29C of the general laws, it'd be of the MGL.
Where is that chapter?
So just, I'm taking
Oh,
6th line, 7th
yes,
line
yeah,
down.
yeah,
Just change general laws to MGL.
right.
That's fine. Yeah, you okay with that? Dick? I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay, onward and upward.
Okay, so I haven't spent a lot of time on this. I have to admit that I'm not sure that I'm anxious to do this. I understand that it might help somebody. If you want to talk about it a little bit, in the sense that I'm not worried about somebody who's trying to sell their house, because there's a way to do that. You do it with escrow, it works out. I mean, if worst case you have a problem, you can sell a house without the Title V approval and have the escrow so that you can do it. There's ways to do that. The ones that concern me is somebody who is living in town, is older and doesn't have a lot, somebody who doesn't have money, period, and has a problem with their septic system. They don't have to be old, no, it's true, there are people.
Well, there are people that can't afford to do it.
And have to do a septic system, because when it doesn't work, you gotta do it. You know how, you can pump it a couple times, but sooner or later, you gotta face up to it. And so this would be a way to help it. But even there are tools to, based on your, I mean, if you gotta pay this back one way or another, I'm not sure that it's worth trying to do this complexity. I remember there's one occasion I was aware of in a dozen plus years where this would have been helpful for somebody. But for the complexity of what it does, I'm not
Where did this
sure
come from?
that I'm willing to do this. But it was good. It was from the Board of Health,
Board of Health, yeah.
recognizing that this can be a problem. But, this idea of appropriating raise and appropriate, vote to appropriate the sum of $200,000. I think we have to raise it, don't we? If we're gonna appropriate it,
have
how are we
to-
paying for it?
We have
We
to,
have to do borrow. On that, now we're gonna go out to bond to borrow.
No.
No, we're not
We're
going
not
out to
going
bond. We're
to
not
bond.
going
You
out.
don't have to, it allows it, I know.
and so on. What it does is, from my point of view, I'm more concerned about, was it MS4 that's coming along, or what is the,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the next-
okay.
and,
Yes, separate.
yeah,
separate
and
stormwater.
the fact is that there may be, in the course of becoming more compliant and all these sorts of things with new standards, we're gonna find homes that are owned by people that do require significant support. We could set up this,
MS4 has nothing to do with this, though.
but I'm saying when you start looking at where you're getting discharges, what's happening, the MS4 regulations for the, whatever it is, stream that comes down by the library and everything, very much affected by sewer lines that are all along the brook that comes down there.
That are failing, or have issues along the way.
Yeah, the point is, and they're not under any compunction to make changes or upgrades. Some of them are 50 years old. And you don't see the effluent coming out on the surface, but it's down there. When that starts to get measured, if it comes back to, you must lower this, therefore people must be in
So
compliance.
it needs to be a point source. If the MS4 isn't the issue, it needs to be a point source. Somebody literally has to have a
You
pipe.
put dyes
pumping
in the
it
water and everything, absolutely.
But it has to be, if it's sequestered in the earth and somehow the system isn't working well and is putting more into the into the groundwater system than you want or whatever, that's a different story. That goes back to the septic system. It's not an MS4.
All that's,
MS4 is only point sources that.
I understand, but point sources oftentimes are septic systems.
Oh, what?
Failing or inadequate septic systems. For instance,
You
this-
can have one that would overflow, yes. That
yeah,
would be that would be.
it could have been,
proud.
I know from
Well-
having owned one, I had a compliant septic system in a house that I had that had been installed faultily, and I had to, you know, had to rebuild it. Fortunately, not too expensive, but I think the question is, do we want to discuss whether this should be in or shouldn't be in now? Or do we want to put this off? Again, I keep looking at the clock.
We're gonna decide when everybody's here on all of these, but my sense is, let's take it out. Maybe spend a year thinking about it and talking about it and trying to understand in more detail the real cost. What would it take for us to really manage something like this? How many times do we have to use it? I would be delighted to write a procedure for this before we actually ask the people to vote on it.
let's for
Because I'd
now-
like to see the complexity of it.
Let's for
We have
now
some-
go on to Article
We have some
39.
flow charts and some other things that we've created in the
Oh, you
finance.
did?
Let's
Yeah.
go on to Article 39, because we
Good.
will have to
Thank you.
revisit that one.
Veteran exemption. Basically adopting the state law, MGL, Mass General Law, MGL.
It's both here.
It's
isn't it?
both here, I know, my gosh, all right, we'll fix that. But adopting that, for veterans exemption, basically, with all of those, the first part references in the state law boils down to is an opportunity for those, descendants or, heirs of someone who's deceased from a,
Either inactive service or an injury resulting from active service.
right, so if you're active duty and you're overseas or not even overseas, but you're active duty and something happens while you serve, or if there's an injury, it's sort of debated of how much, what that line is, and
Full disability or something.
yeah, and that for the veterans, you know, if it doesn't happen on site, but the death is a result of an injury that they had during their time of service. You know, obviously, I'm a little partial. My brother's a veteran. Obviously, I won't speak too much more than what I say right now, but any opportunity we have to support our veterans and their families for the sacrifices both those veterans and their families make, hopefully we can take a hard look at it.
Where it could matter, and I know one family was in this situation, basically the husband, they had a family of 3 kids, and the husband was killed in Iraq, and she's had a real hard time. And
That's right.
they've, even though they were only making Army wages and she was working a little part-time, they're much worse off than they were when he was alive. And not that this might, in her case, be an example of
This
where it
would-
would provide a real
Potentially.
a help.
I just lost my battery.
Does that mean we're over time?
Oh,
We're over
I'm getting close.
I've got 71%, so dig in.
Here we go.
So, we don't need to discuss that right now, do we?
We can leave that for now.
This is politically correct, no, it's actually better wording. Instead of men and women, just say members, service members.
Oh, sure.
in the bottom.
Much better, much better.
Service members.
I don't have a problem with it anyway.
Zoning bylaw, this is one that came from Martha Morrison. It's kind of relevant to the one we talked a little bit before. Solar project, they need to get an interconnection agreement with National Grid in order for that utility, that power that's produced to go into the grid. National Grid, our current 10-plus-year-old zoning ground mount photovoltaic installation zoning bylaw requires that they have an interconnection agreement at the time they go for the approval. It's sort of backwards. Typically, you go through the process of planning while you're getting the interconnection. You don't necessarily
So
have
it
it.
needs to be changed in order to.
Yep.
So it's
So
eliminating
basically
section
changes
D.
the laws in that.
Basically, it's
So,
eliminating section
but
D
the format of this needs to be fixed, right?
of how
How we lay, how we describe this and
yeah,
how we do it.
bump it over like we did in
Well,
some of the others.
Yeah, so Martha didn't do this, you did it, right? mean,
I did it,
I'm
'cause
sure that Martha did this, because she would have formatted it, okay. So it needs to be formatted in the standard way. Good. Okay.
Here's the bus.
I thought your computer died.
Sure, yeah, no, we'll adjust that. And then the free cash offset tax rate placeholder. Oh, no, I mean, typically it's something we do, so, but it's still a placeholder for whatever that number
That's
is.
number 50, right, okay.
And then we have the elections warrant, which talks about the open positions for the election 2 days later. Went through it a couple times. If I missed anything, please let me know. I used, obviously, Beth's information.
Beth has looked at this, right?
Yes,
Okay.
she provided the information, and
But she should physically look at it.
I'll have a
so
look
once
at
we
it
put
too.
in
I'll
there.
make sure to. And then the 2.5 referendum, again, placeholder if
Yeah.
it overrides the appetite of the board. And then that is basically it. The only other edit that I have from there on out is again, copy and pasting from last year's. I'm gonna change Selectman Bermudez to vice chairman instead of clerk.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, you can say vice chair and clerk, your choice.
Titles are important.
Yeah, that's good.
Right.
Are we done with the warrant for the time being?
It's my pleasure to say
Okay.
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
When's our
Where's the SCM, by the way?
Working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got to get with Catherine on that, just to understand sort of the financial components of that.
So here's the big question. We will revisit this exciting topic next Thursday, the 19th.
So, is there anything we could do sooner than that?
I'm gonna look at the things that,
I would
Are
think
gonna be-
that if we could schedule a Tuesday and a Thursday, that would be better than the Thursday. We're really getting down to crunch time.
You're saying
I'm
the
saying,
17th?
Hold on to Thursday, but let's have another one before that.
I'm not
Find
sure
out
I
more.
can do Tuesday.
Okay, I mean, Wednesday,
I can do Tuesday, that's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can do Tuesday.
I've got union negotiations on Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
I could
Fire,
do
so
Wednesday. I have a road commissioners meeting at 7:30 on Wednesday, but I could still do in the afternoon.
I've got police negotiations on Wednesday until, I have it blocked off till 3 o'clock. And then I have the Smith Memorial meeting, they have people flying in from Utah to go over logistics and get some answers for us on what they're looking at.
So that's all Wednesday.
That's all day Wednesday, and then on Tuesday, I've got the police, Thursday I have the police assessment,
this Friday is gone. Oh, I see. Next.
Tuesday, St. Patrick's Day, morning's okay with me. I could probably still do the afternoon as well, if need be.
We've got nothing Tuesday,
Tuesday morning is better for me.
and we have,
Okay.
we have a working session already scheduled for Thursday.
Yes, and we should keep it.
Yeah,
And the challenge is Lynn has a harder time on weekdays, but we can put something in tentatively and see if she can make
And
it.
see if she can make it, right?
Give her enough.
Or, and I have to watch Kevin's schedule, you're very busy on Wednesday or something.
Wednesday's the last
But-
day.
But I mean, something like 5 o'clock is not a bad thing necessarily for us,
Just
and it might be better for Lynn if it can make it for you and things like that.
for what it's worth too, just my schedule for this week to try to tackle some of these edits. I've got on tomorrow, there's a lot of different corona virus items in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I've got the teachers' union to discuss the.
This is tomorrow, you're saying?
This is tomorrow, and
Yeah,
then
but
Friday.
we're not gonna try to do anything this week.
No, I'm just saying, from the day, time to actually get in and do
So to
something.
get the edits in
I'd
there?
like to try to have it ready for the next time we meet.
Yeah,
Thursday.
Kevin wants to make
Well,
some
I should be able
changes
to
and
give you-
inputs beforehand, he's not ready yet,
So
and
from-
won't be able to until the weekend.
And Friday, I have all day,
You gotta
we have
box it.
interviews.
Debbie wants the floor.
I can do the edits and have them done for Friday, so if you wanna have a meeting Tuesday, they'll be done.
Before you go, look at that. Next.
Isn't she,
And
isn't
it's just,
she
then you have
something?
Look at
fresh
that.
eyes on it, so if there's something else missing, you can do it.
What is your Tuesday schedule,
It's
Kevin?
on
We're
that here.
boxing you in here, but I'm curious.
You said morning?
It's because of Lynn, you well pointed out that, you know, if we
Is
can
your
do it
Tuesday morning
after,
fine?
Let's see what,
Later in the
let's see
day,
what,
and
You want me to send an
If
email
it
out
is
just to
this
see,
thing,
get a,
well, I wanna find out if Kevin's got other stuff that needs to happen.
Tuesday, it said it was available in the morning, because I was gonna do a Meals on Wheels delivery. I can cancel that, that's fine, I've been putting it off for like months, because I keep in my mind thinking I'm gonna have time to do it, but this is not the right time.
You've been here 3 months. Meals on
haven't
Wheels
done
have
it
waited
yet?
a month. And you know, you have to give a meal to every single person who gets a meal, it's gonna take you a year or two.
It's worth it. So I've got the Meals on Wheels, but that, I can push it again, that's not a problem. And then I've got Ipswich River, with Wayne and Joel, Gaston Way, 2 o'clock, and then St. Patrick's Day event with the Council on Aging, again, I can stop
that's
it.
just, that was just.
So what about,
I need it. Yeah, that's a good point, coronavirus is probably not gonna
I think
happen.
that was canceled, or like,
yeah, I,
That's
say,
okay.
I have, gosh, I've got, it's just 3 o'clock, I think it's a 1 o'clock
nobody in, nobody out.
appointment, but I could go before or after that. Why don't, Debbie, why don't you find out whether morning or afternoon's better?
I'll
I
send
think
an
we're
email out and just
flexible.
let
For
everybody.
Tuesday?
Yeah, we'll,
Tuesday.
I'll just send an email out
Yeah.
and you can all, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll
Let's
fine.
do it.
We'll start with Lynn, see what it looks like on Tuesday.
you're gonna get
and
back
something
to it,
like
okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna totally get back
Yep.
to us, good.
Okay.
Yep,
I think it's, thank you, I think it's better to have it and.
Yep.
And then if we get it all done, we'll cancel Thursday.
Well, that's
Great.
That's our objective.
So what I would like, that is be fine. What I'd like to do is, see, is there a motion to approve I'll make a motion to approve minutes of the Board of Selectmen meeting held on Monday, February 24th, 2020. You know, I'm gonna follow Dick's
Second.
lead on this and say, let's throw this in with the bunch that we do in the public meeting.
Good,
This,
I mean, I don't think people, okay,
I
yep,
don't care.
sure,
That's fine.
whatever.
It's okay. So in that case, there is just
I'll tell you
one.
the reason that we've done the minutes like this, and I agree with you that way. But there was a push to get people were asking for minutes in between, and if we have the 2 weeks, so I don't think people are complaining too much about the minutes. It's up to you. You made the motion, I'm willing to second it.
Okay,
I'd love
you
to think
seconded
they're
it.
fine.
Okay, we have a first and we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that was easy,
I motion
thank
to
you.
adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have a quorum, you can go, Mr. Chair. Yeah, right.